Rick, I wanted to go right into the piece because I think it's really important. People hear this because they're not getting it from other news sources. Other news sources are talking about the president's helicopter rides and whether or not he should be filming a video and should he be back at the White House as president of the United States. I mean, absurd, and we can talk about some of that too, but they're not talking about these real scandals. I hope they come up, and the president said he looks forward to the debate in Miami, which is a town hall, so in that setting it might come up, but again, there's another debate then too, and of course the vice presidential debate tomorrow, but you write early on in this piece that the scandal is worse than anyone thought because it wasn't just the money from the Ukrainian oligarchs that Hunter Biden received, the millions of dollars, but that even the British corruption investigators found that Hunter's firm was accepting a wire transfer of $3.5 million. These are massive amounts of money from the wealthiest woman in Russia and the ex-wife of the former mayor. And this is while Russia and Ukraine are in a conflict that we were supposed to kind of be during the Obama administration. They didn't do much, Rick, but we were supposed to be on Ukraine's side while Crimea was being annexed.
Yeah, so let's just take a step back here and think about the ways of Washington and the rules of Washington. This is really corruption at its core. We have a system in Washington that when you know somebody, when your father is the vice president, regardless of the fact if you have any experience in energy, you can get $50,000 a month in a consulting fee, which is what Hunter Biden got. $50,000 a month. All because he was connected to the vice president at the time, who also, let's remember, by his own admission, Joe Biden was running foreign policy, that he was the foreign policy expert. He's the former chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. So in the Obama-Biden administration, Joe Biden was the point person for foreign issues, for foreign policy issues. And so he's in charge of trying to clean up the corruption in Ukraine. We famously, we know that he made this famous comment on camera saying that he was threatening the Ukrainians to do certain things, otherwise they weren't going to get money from the United States government. That's a scandal right there. The fact that Washington just dismisses this is indicative of the fact that they like their rules, and their rules mean that they get to break every other rule. And their rules in Washington, D.C. that Joe Biden always plays by is that lobbyists and connections and money flow. And this is just the ways of Washington. And so you think about somebody like Hunter Biden, who had zero experience in energy issues, getting $50,000 a month, plus this payment that you highlight, $3.5 million from a woman who used to be her ex-husband was the mayor of Moscow. This is really a scandal in the making, because what we have now found out is that the State Department under the Obama administration was very concerned. Career officials of the State Department very concerned about what was going on. They raised these issues with then Vice President Joe Biden's office and said, we don't feel comfortable with you talking about Ukrainian policy from the White House and your son on the board of these different entities receiving $50,000 a month. It's a big problem. Remember that the Democrats went after Rudy Giuliani for all of his work in the Ukraine, trying to tie him to President Trump. I really believe this. I've heard people say that whenever the Democrats come at you accusing you of something, it's always something that they're doing. This is a perfect example. They are screaming about Ukrainian policy and what Rudy Giuliani is doing. And this entire situation of the State Department raising their concerns, career officials saying, we don't like it, what are you going to do about it? Joe Biden, as vice president, ignored those concerns from the State Department. He allowed his son to continue getting $50,000 a month just to have access to the vice president's son, not because he was an expert on any energy issues. The White House knew of these problems, ignored them. And here's the biggest thing for me. It didn't leak. Nobody at the State Department told any reporter. Nobody at the White House leaked. Everything that happens in the Trump administration leaks. I think that the Trump administration is probably the most transparent administration in the history of the world because everything we do leaks. Every thought, every conversation, hey, let's think about this. And then suddenly it's like the Trump administration is thinking about this. It really is unbelievable that the system in Washington protects its own. And this is why they want Joe Biden to come back, because the 47 years that he was in Washington, he played by the rules and he knows their rules. And their rules, remember, do not help Americans. It's an insider's game of money and information and power.
And this was, I mean, again, I think the fact that it's being picked up by the British, it's being picked up by, I mean, we know that the Obama administration's, president himself is being briefed on it. It didn't leak, Rick. And then the fact that it doesn't appear that President Obama cared, even though it was affecting their policy. And Joe Biden certainly didn't. He didn't tell him to stop. And he keeps telling you that President Trump, he's lying about it, which he's not lying. He said that, but then he also admitted to getting money from their good friend, the former mayor of Moscow's wife. I mean, so President Trump is not lying in the debates when he brings this up.
No. Oh, no. He's not lying. And the fact of the matter is that the State Department, the career officials, were just as concerned as President Trump years ago. And they just dismissed it. But here's why they dismissed it. Here's why President Obama and Vice President Joe Biden and all of the people who cover Washington, reporters who are in the swamp. This is why they dismissed it back then. Because politicians' sons from the Democratic side get to make a lot of money. That's just the rule. That's part of the game. That's the game of Washington. That's the price that you pay. And so it's not that odd to them that the vice president's son has a $50,000 a month contract. They just think, we're Washington. Dad's the vice president. Why doesn't he get to do that?
Yeah, I mean, well, John King on CNN said it. He said it, Rick. I mean, take a listen. This is on CNN. John King talking about Hunter Biden doing the shrug, bite 20.
Hunter Biden, in many ways, is a weakness for the former vice president because of his work. He was I'll call it out. He's a swamp creature, like many people, trading under his family name to make money around the world.
There aren't that many people, Rick, who can trade on their family name and make that kind of money around the world.
Yeah, like many people, Jordan.
Like many.
This is just what they do. This is how you dismiss it. It's like, oh yeah, like many people. This is the ways of Washington. He's not doing anything different than Washington. John King is a creature of Washington. He's seen this so many times that he's like, yeah, $50,000 a month, like many people. I think that's shocking. I think that's unbelievably shocking.
Yes, when they just say it like that, they say that we could all do this. But I know, Wes, you got a question as well, and we got a couple minutes left with Rick.
Yeah. Well, I'm amazed, and I had written down before Rick started talking the word corruption and circled it. This is the dictionary definition of corruption, Rick. And here's the thing: you mentioned this double standard, and it's obviously there. But when these things come out, like all this has been coming out in spite of the biased media about Hunter Biden's dealings and how the Obama administration looked the other way, but when they are called out on it, when this kind of information actually gets to the public, not only does the mainstream media soft pedal it, but at the same time, whenever they're confronted with it, as Vice President Biden has been confronted, they're not even embarrassed. They're not ashamed, Rick. That one of the indictments of the Old Testament prophet for ancient Israel was they had forgotten how to blush. And I think that this swamp creature thing and all the family connections, the politicians, they have forgotten how to blush, but the American people have not.
Yeah, no, look, I want to make one thing clear. I have no problem with people who are experts in their field making a lot of money. I think that if you are providing an expertise to a project or something, gee, I wish I could get that contract, which I can't. But I just want to make it clear that it's not about the expertise that you're hiring, because we certainly know in Washington there are experts on these different projects. The difference is that Hunter Biden didn't have any experience other than being the vice president's son. This is the definition of corruption. You're paid for access.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.